What's up, duelists? Welcome to Neptibus Pranks. Today we're gonna prank MBT.
Mole and glossy effect, nerd.
What are you talking about?
Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. I know a lot of you are concerned about the upcoming format. There's about 8 different domain locks, 18 different combo FTKs, and worst of all, Salamangrade is still playable. Unfortunately, I have bad news for anyone hoping for a swift end to this hell format. It's only getting worse with the next one. It gives me no pleasure to say, Hand Loop is back. Presenting ATLANTEAN Mermail. So here's the list and... Merlantian. Merlantian never changes. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is a one-stop shop for deck building, deck uploading, card searching, and strategy articles, some of which are written by yours truly. I'm proud to represent them, and I encourage any player interested in deck building to check out their website at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now, back to Neptibus. For those of you that don't know, Merlantian is a deck that's been around for years at varying stages of playability. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's slightly less bad, but still not playable. Whenever it's good, however, we're all reminded of what an absolutely miserable experience it is to play against. It does one thing extremely well: hand loops. I'm going to paint a picture for you. It's turn 1. You've lost the die roll. Your opponent summons Mole and Glacia, the Elemental Lord, and Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. You draw for turn and proceed to your main phase, at which point they summon Desert Locusts with Halqifibrax's effect, followed by a quick chain of Locusts' effect to summon Psy-Frame Gear Omega. It is your first turn. You have one card in hand, and your opponent has an Abyss Scale of the Mizuchi staring you down. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is over. What's worse, the deck is extremely adaptable. If the above line fails, it can easily pivot from a hand loop open to a board building one, ending on a pop and a refuel through the new Tribal Link, a mass negate and battle prevention tool in their Tribal Xyz, quick effect Raigeki through White Aura Whale, or good ol' Bahamut Shark Toad setups. In preparation for the Deep Sea archetype, Konami has made the deck infinitely more frustrating by unlimiting Deep Sea Diva and printing a Sea Serpent Searcher in Eternity Code. These two changes, in addition to the Master Rule revision and Halqifibrax's release, have made the deck a consistent, powerful, and innovative strategy with few counters. So let's see how well we can deploy these Deep Seas. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Firstly, the cause of all of this, Mole and Glacia, the Elemental Lord. Next, our Mermails, 3 Abyss Megalo, 3 Abystius, a Pike, and a Gunda. After that, the Atlanteans, 3 Neptibus, the Atlantean Twunk, 3 Goons, and 2 Heavy Infantry. Next are 3 Deep Sea Diva, 3 Swap Frog, a Ronin Totem, and a Dupe. After that, we're on 2 Aqua Spirit for extenders, Fishborg for Hulk, and Lapis for free tuner material if we normal Nep. For spells, we're on 3 Deep Sea Aria, 3 Called by the Grave, 2 Moray, and 1 apiece of Reborn, 1 for 1, and Scale. In the extra, we're on the usual hand loop suspects, Trish, Omega, and Locust, alongside White Aura Whale, Brionac, and Quad. We're also on Gaios, Bahamut, Abyss, and the sadly limited Toad for Xyz, and Coral, Lacia, Hulk, Mistarboy, and Linkaribo for Lynx. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against True Draco Monarch, and suddenly I feel a lot better about playing Merlantian. If any deck deserves to be hand-looped, it's this one. We are going first, so we will attempt to do just that. We're going to lead with a copy of Deep Sea Diva, special summoning an Neptibus from deck, whose effect we will activate to send a Goons to graveyard and add a Goons to hand. We'll activate Goons' effect to get a copy of Abyss Megalo, discarding 2 Goons, and that's about as good as it gets. We're going to go ahead and trigger all 3 effects and add a Mole and Glacia to our hand alongside an Abyss Scale of the Mizuchi. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and link summon a copy of Needle Fiber and activate its effect to get a Fishborg launcher from deck. That's 5, so it's Mole and Glacia time, and as soon as I see the Pantheism, I switch gears. We have to banish that card immediately, so we'll go into Trishula, banish that card and an additional card from hand, and this should be enough to win us the game because, of course, True Draco Monarch needs multiple cards in hand to do anything. We'll equip an Abyss Scale onto a monster that's going to blank the entirety of the deck. Our opponent's going to activate Stormforth, realize it's negated, and concede. Our second match is up against Inferno, Tempest, Necroface, and wow, we are just hitting a rogues gallery of every single deck in the metagame that's more degenerate than ours. Okay, well, we're going first. We're going to lead with a copy of Abystius, sending a Goons to the graveyard, triggering both Goons and Abystius to add a copy of Gunda to hand, followed by a copy of Deep Sea Diva. We're going to normal summon that Deep Sea Diva to get a copy of Neptibus the Atlantean Prince from our deck. We will send a Goons to get Goons, then activate Goons in graveyard for a copy of Mole and Glacia. We'll go into Needle Fiber for a Fishborg launcher, and then activate Abyss Megalo. Afterwards, we're going to trigger both the effect of Gunda and the effect of Goons, and the effect of Abyss Megalo, so we can get a copy copy of Abyss Scale of the Mizuchi, special summon this Abystius, and add a copy of Lapis Dragon to our hand, which will special. We'll overlay for an Abyss Gaios, and that's exactly 5. We're going to Mullen Glacia our opponent. We hit 2 allures, and while the cat's not all the way out of the bag, I have an inkling. Because of that, I want to keep the attack of this Abyss Gaios really high while making as many negates as possible. So we're going to trigger the effect of Goons for a pop via our Abyss Lacia and end on a Toad board. We'll pass it back to our opponent. They'll activate Soul Absorption, and yeah, now we know what's up. Well, with 2 cards in hand, Toad here seems pretty good. We're also going to chain the effect of Halqifibrax, so we can go ahead and get ourselves a copy of Desert Locust as well. We'll trigger the effect of Desert Locust and the effect of Totally Awesome to get this Nept Abyss back to our hand for next turn. They're going to discard a Necroface, and yeah, that's what I expected. I have about 100% knowledge of that set card. It's gotta be exactly Inferno Tempest, but we're unlikely to trigger it. We're going to normal summon an Abystius before bringing back Fishborg Launcher and going into Aura Whale. Unfortunately, we have to lose our battle phase this turn because we no longer have Mullen Glacia. We'll pass it back to our opponent, and they'll pass it back to us. Another Deep Sea Diva, huh? We're going to go for a Nept Abyss and then bring back this copy of Lapis Dragon so we can make a Brionac. That'll come in handy. We'll bounce that set card and go to battle phase. Unfortunately, nothing but 3 of our monsters can attack because Abyss Gaios' effect is reciprocal. Still, we're doing a fair amount of damage here. It's a 3-turn clock against a deck that's all the way out of resources. We'll set this Called by the Grave, and they'll make an Eater of Millions. I don't want to activate Abyss Gaios because they can banish in response and it'll outscale it. Instead, I'm going to activate it on my turn so that even if they do activate the graveyard effect of this copy of Gizmek, we're going to be able to use its effect as a quick effect on our opponent's turn at a time when they can't. They draw into a copy of Golden Castle of Stromberg and pass it back to us. This should be the end of the game. We'll just go ahead and use the effect of Brionac to bounce their last 2 remaining cards and proceed to battle phase, getting in for 26 and lethal. Eventually. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing Salamangreat, and boy, this hand is bad. Lapis Dragon and Dupe Frog aren't exactly what we want to see in the opener, but thankfully we have both Moray of Greed and Deep Sea Diva in order to smooth things out. We're going to lead with a copy of Moray of Greed, which gets ashed. Joke's on you, all normal Deep Sea Diva, and where's your ash now? It turns out you don't need it because they've got an infinite impermanence. Well, that's the end of our turn. We'll pass it back to our opponent. They're going to lead with a copy of Lady Debug. They will activate it to get a copy of Gazelle before going into Balinx. They'll activate Balinx's effect, then fire off a Pot of Desires, and enough Lady Debugs, I suppose? They'll then go into a copy of Gazelle, sending a copy of, you guessed it, Jack Jaguar, which they'll bring back at Link Point in order to put this copy of Gazelle back in a hand, go into battle phase, clear our field, and then set 1 card and pass it back to us. Unfortunately, that set card is extremely good. We're going to go for Deep Sea Aria here, and they reveal Imperial Order. Okay, that's likely the end of the game. We're going to special summon a copy of Abystius and activate its effect, which eats a 2nd Ash from our opponent's hand before normal summoning a Dupe Frog and going to Coral Anemone. Why didn't I get the Dupe Frog effect? We'll go into Lapis Dragon and then go into Needle Fiber, getting a copy of Fishborg, but we really can't do anything else from this position. We'll pass it back to our opponent. We can't even go into Linkariba because then Fishborg can't come back. They're going to normal summon a copy of Lady Debug, and they're going to get a copy of Spinny, which they'll then activate. This triggers the Gazelle in the hand, which will send a copy of Rage. Next they'll go Sunlight Wolf in order to put the Rage back in hand, but I don't think we're making it out of this turn. They'll bring back Jack Jaguar and then Spinny, and you know where we're going from here. Update Jammer into Transcode Talker. They're going to trigger both Update Jammer and Special Summon Attack with Transcode Talker before attacking our monster, dealing 1,000. We'll activate Needle Fiber to go into Locust, but it's a little late for that. They'll attack directly for well over lethal. So it's time for game 2, and while this hand is still pretty bad, it also contains a Called by the Grave, which is just ripe for the ashing. We're going to lead with a copy of Mermail Abystius. It doesn't really do anything but add a Gunda to our hand. Then we'll activate Deep Sea Aria. It eats an Ash Blossom. We'll Called by the Grave it. We're not getting Diva here. Instead, we're going to get a copy of Goons, which we will use as fodder for the Abyss Megalo in our hand. We'll trigger both the Goons and the Abyss Megalo in order to get a copy of Abyss Scale, the Mizuchi, and a copy of Deep Sea Diva, which we will then normal summon in order to get Nept Abyss, the Atlantean Prince, from our deck. We're going to send a Goons to get a Goons, and then use Goons effect for a Mullen Glacia before link summoning a Needle Fiber using its effect for a Fishborg Launcher, and specialing Mullen Glacia to get 2 of the remaining 4 cards from our opponent's hand. This is probably not optimal, but it's also probably still enough. Our opponent will draw for turn. They're going to normal summon a copy of Lady Debug, which we will negate with Abyss Gaios, and afterwards, they'll concede. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and even though we're on the draw, our hand is immaculate if it weren't for 1 card located in our opponent's hand twice. Okay? Well, they're going to begin with a copy of Salamangreat Spinny going into a Balinx, triggering the effect of Balinx and the effect of Gazelle, which they hard drew. Must be nice. Next, they're going to activate the effect of Gazelle, and then link summon a copy of Sunlight Wolf using Spinny to bring back to Link Point and put the Gazelle back in hand before summoning Sunlight Wolf again, setting a Rage and passing it back to me. I'm feeling okay because we've drawn a Lapis Dragon. We'll go ahead and summon it before getting a Nept Abyss with a 1-for-1. That will trigger the Rage from our opponent, but no matter. We have a Deep Sea Aria and have not yet performed our normal summon. We'll go Diva into Nept Abyss, then activate the effect of Nept Abyss for Goons. Then we'll activate Goons effect for copy Mullen Glacia, but I'm not even going to discard cards from my opponent's hand. It's time to OTK. We're going to trigger Goons effect and Abystius' effect, getting a copy of Gunda and a copy of Abyss Megalo. We're going to go to White Aura Whale, get that copy of Balinx out of our opponent's graveyard, go into Abyss Megalo, use Abyss Gunda's effect to bring back Abystius, and Are you kidding me? And Gazelle, no. Okay, well, I guess we'll pass it back to our opponent. For turn, they draw a copy of Foxy. They're going to normal summon it and find off the top. Okay, another Foxy's fine. They'll activate Will of the Salamander Great to bring back this copy of Wolf, and then Sanctuary to reincarnation summon the Sunlight Wolf, and then bring back a Jaguar at link point so they can put a card back in their hand. They'll go Update Jammer into Borolo Dragon, which is not the worst thing in the universe. We're not dead, and that token isn't in attack position, so we're safe. It will be gone by the next time we have to think about it. We draw Swap Frog, which is pretty good. We're going to Swap Frog to send a Swap Frog, then Ronin Toad back before we link summon a copy of Coral Anemone, bring back the Swap Frog so we can use its effect again, and then use Ronin Toad's effect again to end on a Toad. In our opponent's standby phase, we'll be able to make our Lure, and hey, things are looking okay, I suppose. Unfortunately, our opponent just has such a stacked graveyard. They'll bring back Foxy, normal summon a copy of Falco, will back this copy of Wolf, go into a Boral Sword. Did you really need both Borals? At this point, you're just flexing. They'll attack into our remaining board. We don't even have a target for Dupe Frog at this point, and we die. So we're back with the deck, and whew. Honestly, I gotta say I'm a little relieved. I mean, slightly less good than Salaman Great is a measure of a deck I can live with. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. It's consistent. I don't know whose idea it was to give this deck an extra 3 copies of Deep Sea Diva, but I'd like to know the location of their Minecraft server. 2, it's adaptable. This deck's got the ability to pivot in all sorts of directions based on what the opponent's playing, and you're always going to know since any combo begins with Mole and Glacia. And 3, it can play through just about anything. When your game plan involves stripping the opponent of cards in hand and Ash Blossom trades off with 1 fewer discard, did you really minus at all? And the cons. 1, it's got next to no rebuildability. You churn through so many resources in your deck turn 1, it's unlikely you're going to be able to make anything competent if your opponent somehow gains access to their game plan. 2, the one card that does shut down your game plan, Nibiru, is already fantastic against a significant amount of the metagame. You're taking a novel approach to winning games, it just sucks that it loses to common hand traps regardless. And 3, it's boring, man. Hand looping gets old fast, and this is coming from someone who played Trickstar for 18 months. It feels like you're not exactly playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In the first place. All in all, it's definitely going to be a power player if Diva doesn't die before the Deep Sea support an Eternity Code. For the sake of the player base, I hope it does, though let's be honest, no one is playing in paper for a while anyway. So that's that. Thanks to my patrons, Meatmoto27, Tyler Slacks, Mika Reichman, Crispy, Sir Tachyon, Lucas Hansen, Schnappen, Lavender Lemonade, Gusto Kekun, Siberian Rabbit, Michael Oskvarek, Dan the Man Hoban, Blah, Blake Root, Standards Objective, Jeff Leonard, Emperor Stove, TJ Steakhouse, Pro Yugi Dad, Picnic Blasted, Burritoman93, Fighting Fang Wong, Donnie Fillerup, Adam Sundquist, Isaac Jackson, Second, Lucas Geartis, Adam Trevino, Adrian Bra, Distrin, and others. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing. And if you want to be part of the process, consider following me on Twitch as well. See you next time.